JB here, JB here. Friday, May 30th, 317, this last Friday of May. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures, well, not futures. Markets are almost nearly flat. And what is, SPY just went green, uh, right over the 590 handle. A frustrating Friday, right? Some of the better trading Fridays would be we have some direction. And it looked like maybe we're going to get some direction to the upside, or at least chop around in the morning and maybe some afternoon fun. But the fun at about 12 o'clock, we had a dip, more news around China and the U.S. Supposedly, the U.S. is supposed to impose tighter restrictions on some of the in the tech space. It just frustrating, right? Not the type of environment that I don't know. It's the good things. I didn't do anything today, right? The bad thing is some of the trades I'm in, they did something, right? Some faded a little bit, but I still think we have a nice setup into next week. Despite the dip and break under 586, there was a quick bounce, and now we're back here in the green. And then I think there's gonna be some more positive, well, at least catalyst next week. And I don't know how much more the market is going to rally after new trade deals, right? But I think as they start to come along, I think that could at least put a floor in where we are now, and then set the stage for the SPY to head into the 600s. Not much next week, right? I think it's the start of the month, so we get the May jobs report on Friday. That'll be a big one. There's not a lot of earnings. I think Thursday there's Lulu, Broadcom. I'm trying to think of some of the other names they're reporting. So there's still some names to reporting earnings, but yeah, outside of that, it might be somewhat of a news vacuum. So Fed meeting is the middle of June, so I think it's 2 weeks from Wednesday. Um, yeah, so we'll have to see how that plays out. POTUS had his had Musk at the White House. He did his little press conference. Nothing much concrete came out of that, besides the fact that Trump said he's going to work it out with President Z, however you pronounce it. So that kind of like removes some of the comments from this morning. But again, I was saying it this morning, and like in FinTwit, it's like he reads the headlines on Thursday, or watches an interview, or he saw probably Besant on Fox News, which is probably what it was, saying that trade talks have kind of stalled a bit, and then boom, that's it. And then he wakes up the next morning and he's furiously typing. No, he doesn't furiously type his keyboard, so someone else is doing it for him. And just it's frustrating, right? So hopefully, the best environment how I trade is having some. I love earnings, right? The earnings season, and then outside of that, having at least the market find footing. So some of the momentum names, growth names, undiscovered names that would probably do well, start doing well again. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. 586, 597 this week. Probably, hopefully, we can. Looks like we're going to close over 590 here. Maybe next week's the week for 600. During the pullback in the right after the noon hour, I was actually looking at SQQQ calls. But again, it's like the third time when we've had these news-driven dips, and then it just becomes you can get hyped into it and feared out of positions, or feared into getting puts, or you just kind of like hold on, wait to find support. Found support around 583, and then you just watched, and all of a sudden markets kind of reverse, and then we just start melting to the upside. So thankfully held pat on getting the SQQQ calls. And I always say, like, some days I'm very aggressive when I see opportunities, but to me it's like the worst thing you do is just trying to force trades just because you haven't made a trade today. And then the worst thing is, I wouldn't say it's worse, but not making the position is sometimes a position, right? So that happened a lot today. I was looking at a lot of the Reddits. I mean, I was staring at the calls all morning. I was looking at the 114s. They were like 18 cents. Then next thing you know, they're 25. I'm like, oh, I go up to the 115s. Almost got those. And then, those were up a little bit too. But I don't close lottos out for 10% or 20%. I close them out for 100, 200, 300%. So I would have held on to them. So thankful there. The name that kind of got away from me this morning was Alton. So I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so overall market, take a look at the amount of stocks trading over their 50-day moving average on the S&P, still over 70%. So momentum is strong. So if you want to folks want to make a bear case about market breadth or all that stuff, I mean, the technicals are telling you otherwise, right? And then the VIX, which is in the red despite the volatility today. So all good things, and hopefully, maybe this is just the last week or two of churn. We get no more crazy market moving headlines, or at least the market gets a little tired of those and say, hey, there's probably positive outcomes on the horizon, and we go from there. So unfortunately, so individual names, Wayfair under its 200-day moving average. It was actually holding up in the morning. It was like 10:30, it was in the green, and then it just came all the way down to 41 bucks. Still like this one to trade north of 45 in the coming week or two. I'll continue to hold the June strikes. It was a monster trade on the weeklies as well. Thankful I closed those weeklies yesterday. Of course, could have ran up to 45, right, or 46. But at the same token, sometimes you gotta pull the ripcord to get out, especially when they're up so much. So that's W. And then GameStop hanging in here green. Maybe it's going to take another couple days of churning before the next leg. I still think this trades into the 40s and beyond in the coming weeks. But there's so many folks in it now. It becomes one of those names where I wouldn't say it's manipulated. It's not heavily shorted like it was before. It just seems like maybe people using it almost like a trading vehicle where they know it's going to bounce at some point, load up, then sell at the highs, then rinse and repeat. But I'm not going to add any more strikes just yet on GameStop. It's still like that one for upside. Joby as well, disappointing here today. I was hoping it was going to hold $8. It was struggling. Then 10 o'clock looked like it was going to hold, and then boom, all the way down to 770. I'm going to add more calls at some point on this name. Especially further out into the fall, because I think at some point it's going to start to reflect the fact that there's going to be revenues coming in. Disappointing DELL. I mean, what can you say? I don't know what DELL could have done yesterday on earnings for the stock to soar, because by any comparison from some of these other names that have reported, it was a monster quarter in my opinion, especially with the guidance. And then they're at the forefront of this whole, everything that's going on with AI and NVDA and all that. And it's like just shocking, and some of the reason it was weak before was worries around China, right? China, tariffs would kill a lot of pretty much erode the entire profit line. But that doesn't look like it's coming to pass. And then their earnings, they probably, I wouldn't say dismissed it, but so another name I was watching at the open, I was watching DELL. I'm like, wow, it was 114 and 113 and 116. I'm like, this might go to 120. I was looking at the 120s. Thankfully, again, didn't pull the trigger. It would have been a real miserable day today. Just the other names I'm looking at, and Pool just went green. The 330s are expensive. I keep looking at those as a possible, a strike I might add. And actually, I mean, it's like I start talking about and it gets a candle. But actually they're 65 by 210. Maybe next week I'll finally visit, but I'm not going to pay like $1.50 for a contract that's 10% out of the money on a name that's not the most liquid, right? But I do think I was talking about on the rant yesterday. Every couple of weeks it goes on a run, and the runs are multi-day and big moves: 320 to 360, 310 to 340. So I won't be surprised at some point it's going to happen. So I'm hoping I'm going to be in before it does. Same with TKO, flat as a pancake today. Actually, it was red before. Not sure, another name. It's similar to when I did PM. At some point it's going to break out. It just why can't I get this up on my streamer? Oh, just went into the green. So it's another name, same with Pool. So maybe next week. I'm no rush to add anything. It doesn't make sense to add anything over the weekend. And then Lemonade. I almost got the June 40s today. I think they were like 60 cents or 65 when I was looking at them. If you take a look at Lemonade, it's been churning. And again, it's one of those it's like, I wouldn't call it PLTR, but it's similar. Like, it's got a great story. I think it's underappreciated. And the reason it's down here is because the shorts think it's a zero. And because it's such an easy sector to create the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The insurance sector is one of those. They can always talk about their reserves. They have to hold a certain amount of cash requirements to hold policies. And it's like this whole thing, they create the story. It's like what Jim Chanos does all the time when he goes on TV, right? The old saying, bears sound smart, bulls make money. He goes on and he uses every word. You think this guy's a philosopher, right? That's probably the premise when he goes on there. That's why they get these moves. They sound like, how many times he's been on CNBC when I used to watch CNBC, and he'd bash Tesla. And if you didn't know Tesla, you'd be like, wow, Tesla's a zero. It's going to go bankrupt. And him and his cahoonies and his big circle jerk of people who tried to make their bonds go to, get destroyed so that Tesla would go bankrupt. They pretty much created a story. But rants for other days. Have a great weekend, folks. Hopefully, thankfully, W kind of saved the week a little bit, but hopefully there's some, and GameStop at the start of the week. Hopefully there's more opportunities next week. I'm sure there will be. Markets always got opportunities. Just have to prepare for them, right? That's what luck is. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Have a great weekend, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.